Howdy, folks. We're going to pick it up here in Chapter 3. We're going to look at a couple additional things around arithmetic and declaring and assigning values here, order of operations, and some other basics. So the first thing I want to talk about is when you declare a value, right? That's when we say, hey, Java, I want this thing called a double here, and I'm going to call it my number here. Now, you don't actually have to assign it a value right away. It is perfectly legal to just declare a value. And basically, we're telling Java, hey, save a place for a place to store a double. Go out and get 8 bytes of memory from the operating system. I'm going to go use it later. And then later on, I can say, hey, my number equals 42 or 42.0 or whatever we wanted here, because it could have a decimal place, right? If we wanted it to. So this is declaring it, and then this is assigning a value. You can do those separate. Now, some people, and I'm not really a big fan of this here, they'll do something like this. They'll say int, and they'll say my first number, and then comma, my second number, comma, my third number. And that's technically legitimate. It's perfectly fine. This makes me sad. Legal makes Eric sad. Because I really, like, you'd saved a little bit of typing, I guess, and maybe that's fine. And, usually we feel good about saving some typing here. But I don't know. I just don't like that format myself. So I try not to. And then if you wanted to, right, this is just declaring it. We could also have, let's do some double here. This is, first double, we could say is equal to 1.2, and then second double is equal to 2.4, and then how about a third double is equal to 3.6 or something. So you can declare and assign multiple values of the same type all in one line. So again, still legal, still sad. I guess you've saved a little bit of typing here, but I'm not too into that at all here. And then weird stuff happens, right? So like if you do something like this and you were to say, hey, int, another number, more numbers, and then last number equals 10 here, what's actually happening is only 10 is getting assigned, right? If we were to try and print out these other numbers and then print out our more numbers here and then print out our last number here, notice the first two give us these red lines here, and they say, hey, it might not have been initialized. So like assigning a value is also known as initializing, right? Giving it its initial value. It's initializing that variable, right? So it's not actually going to run for us here because that's a real bad error. It's just not going to work. So if you want to assign multiple values here, like you put it at the end, you might think it's going to do something and it just doesn't do what you expect here. So it's just kind of awkward. So again, let's try not to do these sorts of things. So I'll just leave those commented out because this is just weird stuff happens. Right? We don't like it. Bad stuff happens. How about bad stuff happens? Or it doesn't work. We'll say it doesn't work. Work like you might think. So I typically like to do this all in one line. Now, a fun thing that you can do, if you've got a value and you don't want it to change, so something like, how about a double for the sales tax rate? So if you just say sales tax rate here, sales tax rate, and we assign it 0.06 for Michigan sales tax, nothing stops me from later on in my code taking sales tax rate and assigning it a different value. Let's change that to 70%. Oops, well, that's real bad. You don't want to change that to 70% here. Right? That's bad stuff. So what we can do instead, we can use a word called final. So final is a keyword here. Means you can set the value once and only once. So we say it's a final double sales tax rate. We know it can't change. Now, leaving the name in this form is considered bad because what you want is a final value. You want to make it stand out here. So instead, we're going to do all uppercase, and we're going to use underscores to separate the words because you can't, have that camel casing to say, hey, every next word gets a capital letter because they're all uppercase. So you need some way to separate the words. So a final double sales tax rate. Now, if I try and change sales tax rate and I try and assign it to 0.7 here, it's going to fail, and it'll say cannot assign a value to a final variable. Like once you've initialized it, you can't assign it a value, right? So that prevents you from doing that, from changing it, which is nice. And then the other benefit is if the sales tax rate does change, I only need to go change it in one location in my code. I don't need to go change my 0.06 everywhere else in my code. So putting a nice name to variables is a really nice use for finals, right? If you've got a value that has a particular meaning here. You can do something like if you're using pi or some other sorts of values for your calculations. Hello, kitty. Do you want to come say hi? They're busy eating right now. I think they're done eating. Do you want to say hi to everybody? No? Okay. I think Screech is a little shy. The kids named all the cats. So we've got a Screech, we've got Stella, and we have Daisy. Oh, okay, you gonna climb up me? No? Okay. All right, so that's naming for our variables here and using finals and constants. And then to arithmetic, we've covered some basic arithmetic before. We've covered order of operations, right? So we do multiplication and division. I'm sorry, we do parentheses first and then exponents, multiplication and division. And multiplication and division have the same order of precedence. You do them left to right. And then you do addition and subtraction. And again, addition and subtraction have the same level of precedence. You do them left to right. So you get those silly things like, double result. If people say, this is going to trip everyone up. I don't remember if we talked about this one before or not. So it was like 9 divided by 3 times 3 plus 2 or something like that. Or no, they did, I don't even think they used this format, but you would do the 9 divided by 3 first, because it comes first in the left to right order. It has the same level of precedence. We get 9 divided by 3 is 3, times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. I think what trips people up here is when you use parentheses and you say like 3, 3, and you do that like kind of math notation. Well, really, that just means that we're just multiplying here, is all that means. We're too lazy in math land to add in the multiplication sign, because a lot of times it's like 3x, and you would just write 3x. Right? You don't need to say 3 times x in a lot of those things. But because of the order of precedence here, we would do 9 divided by 3 first and then multiply by x. Here, even if it says 3x, because 9 divided by 3, the division happens first, and then the multiplication. This is just implicit multiplication. So a lot of times people will argue about this silly sort of stuff here, but right, we should get 11 when we're done here. I don't know why that's highlighting it really funny here. That's division. Now, with integer division here, so I could say I want a double for, this is my, call that the quotient? Is that our math term for this? So if I say 5 divided by 2, you'd expect it to be 2.5. But what you get, though, 2, because an integer divided by an integer gives you an integer result. So this is known as integer division, right? An int divided by an int results in an int. Divided by an int always will give you an int. So even though I've told Java, hey, I want to store a double for this, I'm going to get an integer result. So what you want to do instead then, a better quotient is going to be like 5.0 divided by 2 and say, hey, really one of these needs to be a double, right? So to get a double result, at least one of the operands needs to be a double. Right? If one or both are a double, then you'll get a double result, and life will be good here. So if I were to print these out here, print out my quotient, there it is here. So we can say with integer division, 5 divided by 2. Oh, I'll just say 5 divided by 2, right? So 5 divided by 2 is equal to, and then let's just concatenate that in here. And then in here we'll say, this will be 5.0 divided by 2 is equal to, and then we'll concatenate in here our better quotient. We should get 2 and then 2.5. Right? So 5 divided by 2 with integer division gives us 2.0 because it's still a double, and we just lost that decimal place, but 5.0 divided by 2 gives us the 2.5. So it's going to perform a little better here. Now, sometimes you want integer division here. So you might say 2.5 is this, and then we could say I want a integer remainder that is going to be 5 modulus 2. So modulus is this percent sign operator. Modulus, that's the remainder. So think back to long division. This gives you the remainder here. So I can say quotient, plus remainder plus the remainder here. So now we get back to 3rd grade long division, and we get, hey, our result is 2 remainder 1. Okay, so that could work if that's what you're going for, but you need to make sure that's what you're intending to do here. Right? And then a couple other operators. So it's really common for us to take a value. Sorry, that's going to keep beeping here. To take a value and like add to it. So I might say, hey, here's an int for my favorite number is equal to 42, right? And then I can say my favorite number is going to equal my favorite number plus 10. We'll add 10 to it. Well, taking my favorite number and adding 10 and then assigning it back here is just adding 10 to my favorite number. So we're just adding 10 to the value. So there's a shortcut notation. You can say my favorite number plus equals 10. This is a combined assignment operator. Assignment operator, right? It does the same thing as above, but it's less typing. So this is a real common way of saving a little bit of typing. And then a lot of times we might take my favorite number plus equal 1 here and just change it by 1. So we change things by 1 so often. There's an additional operator you can use. You can say my favorite number plus plus is the increment operator. Right? It just will increment the value by 1. Increment, there we go, increment here. And you can also decrement. You can take my favorite number minus minus is the decrement operator. Right? So it's the same as that one, or my favorite number minus is 1. Right? It's just a shortcut, so it's even less typing. Right? You type one less character, you get minus minus instead of minus equals 1. But right, it's a very common thing to do. When we look at loops in a couple chapters coming up, we'll see why that plus plus or minus minus is so common and so popular here. But you can do those sorts of things. Okay. And you can do these combined assignment operators with any of the arithmetics. You can do multiplication, you can do division, you can even do modulus if you really want to. Not a problem there. And then for order of operations, again, parentheses are the way to go there. All right, folks, we'll see you in the next video.